Admiral Kethvar of the Dominion Third Fleet stared at the tactical display with mounting disbelief. The human convoy should have been dead by now, starved, broken, surrendering. Instead, their ships continued their steady trajectory through the asteroid field of Kepler 442, showing no signs of distress after 3 standard months of siege. "Status report," Kethvar commanded, his 4 eyes narrowing at the holographic readout. "Sir," his tactical officer replied, mandibles clicking nervously. "Our blockade remains intact. No supply ships have breached our perimeter. The humans have received no external provisions, yet their biosignatures remain stable." Kethvar's exoskeleton bristled. The Dominion had perfected siege warfare across 17 sectors. Starve the enemy's supply lines, wait for desperation to set in, then dictate terms of surrender. It had never failed against any species until now. "Impossible," he hissed. 47 human vessels, approximately 12,000 souls aboard. Their projected food stores should have been exhausted weeks ago. What the Admiral didn't know was that Captain Sarah Chen, aboard the human flagship Perseverance, was at that very moment biting into a crisp apple, one grown in the hollowed-out hull of asteroid 847b. 3 months earlier, when the human convoy had first detected the Dominion blockade, panic had initially swept through the fleet. They were deep space colonists, agricultural specialists heading to establish farms on New Eden. Their military escort was minimal, their weapons limited. Conventional wisdom suggested immediate surrender. But Dr. Marcus Webb, the convoy's chief agricultural engineer, had other ideas. "We're surrounded by resources," he'd announced during the emergency council meeting. "Asteroids. Hundreds of them. Water ice, mineral deposits, even organic compounds from ancient cometary impacts." Captain Chen had looked at him as if he'd lost his mind. "Doctor, we need food, not geological surveys." "That's exactly what I'm offering," Webb had replied, his eyes gleaming with the fervor of inspiration. "We're going to turn these rocks into farms." The plan had seemed insane. Using their mining equipment, originally intended for New Eden's infrastructure, they began hollowing out the largest asteroids. The convoy's fusion reactors were repurposed to provide heat and light. Atmospheric processors created breathable environments within the rocky shells. But the real miracle was in the soil. Webb's team had discovered that several asteroids contained preserved organic matter from billions of years ago, ancient microbial life frozen in the void. With careful cultivation and genetic enhancement techniques the colonists had brought for terraforming, they awakened these primordial ecosystems. Within weeks, the first asteroid, designated Farm Alpha, sprouted with hydroponic gardens. Potatoes, wheat, soybeans, and dozens of other crops began growing in the artificial environment. The asteroid's low gravity actually accelerated plant growth, while the controlled atmosphere eliminated pests and disease. Captain Chen had watched in amazement as her people transformed from desperate refugees into resourceful pioneers. Children who had been crying from hunger were soon helping tend small vegetable patches in the asteroid's corridors. "How long can we sustain this?" she'd asked Webb during one of their weekly briefings. "Indefinitely," he'd replied matter-of-factly. "We're not just surviving, we're expanding. Each new asteroid we convert increases our agricultural capacity exponentially." Meanwhile, Admiral Kethvar was growing increasingly frustrated. His superiors were demanding results. The Third Fleet's reputation was at stake. How could a ragtag group of human farmers outlast the Dominion's finest military blockade? "Sir," his communications officer interrupted his brooding, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Finally," Kethvar growled. "Their surrender?" The main view screen flickered to life, revealing Captain Chen's calm face. Behind her, Kethvar could see what appeared to be gardens. Impossible. "Admiral Kethvar," Chen began cordially, "I wanted to thank you for giving us the time to establish our new agricultural collective. Your blockade has been most educational." "What game are you playing, human?" Kethvar snarled. Chen smiled. "No games, Admiral. Just farming. You see, your siege taught us something valuable about self-sufficiency. We've converted 43 asteroids into productive agricultural sites. Our current food production exceeds consumption by 347%. The Dominion Admiral's jaw dropped. Literally, in his species' case. "In fact," Chen continued, "we're now producing such a surplus that we'd like to make you an offer. Fresh vegetables for your crews. I imagine it's been months since they've had anything but military rations. Kethvar looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at the transmission in stunned silence. Several were unconsciously licking their lips at the mention of fresh food. "This is preposterous," he shouted. "You're surrounded. You're supposed to be starving." "Admiral," Chen replied patiently. "We humans have a saying, you bloom where you're planted. You tried to trap us in a barren void. Instead, you gave us a garden to cultivate." The transmission ended, leaving Kethvar staring at empty space. Within hours, reports began flooding in from across his fleet. Human shuttles were approaching Dominion vessels under white flags, carrying crates of fresh produce. His own officers were asking permission to trade for the exotic human-grown foods. More disturbing still were the intelligence reports. Long-range scans revealed that the humans hadn't just survived, they'd thrived. Their asteroid farms were expanding daily. What had begun as a desperate survival strategy was becoming a thriving spaceborne civilization. Dr. Webb, reviewing the agricultural reports in what had once been the barren core of asteroid 2847b, allowed himself a satisfied smile. Around him, apple trees grew in neat rows beneath artificial suns, their roots drinking from streams of recycled water. The Dominion had tried to starve them in the void. Instead, they'd learned to make the void itself bloom. When the official surrender came a week later, it wasn't from the humans. Admiral Kethavar's own high command, embarrassed by the siege's complete failure and impressed by human ingenuity, recalled the Third Fleet and opened diplomatic channels. The humans, meanwhile, continued converting asteroids into orchards, proving once again that where other species saw obstacles, humanity saw opportunities. Captain Chen stood on the observation deck of Farm Alpha, watching her people tend their impossible gardens among the stars. They'd come seeking new worlds to cultivate. Instead, they'd learned to cultivate the void itself.